Hello and welcome to cookingflavors.com. Our channel is aimed at teaching beginners the ABCs of Indian cooking. We bring to you the very basic, simple, easy to learn and cook recipes and a guide to the most essential cooking strategies. Keep watching and enjoy our recipes. For today's recipe, let's look at the preparation of a very simple rasam using homemade rasam powder. Now let's take a look at the list of ingredients needed for this. I've added some water in a pot or a vessel. I will be cooking the rasam directly in this vessel, so it's a simple one pot recipe. You can adjust the quantity of water according to your needs. You can see I've added about 3 cups of water. I've measured the water in this cup. You will need about tamarind about the size of a big lemon. If your quantity of the rasam is less, you can reduce the quantity of your tamarind as well. About 1 teaspoon of mustard seeds, 1 teaspoon of cumin seeds, 2 to 3 dry red chillies, I'll be using about 1 heaped tablespoon of homemade rasam powder. You can find the recipe of the homemade rasam powder on our website at cookingflavors.com with a lot of other useful tips. About half a teaspoon of turmeric powder, half a teaspoon of asafoetida or hing, salt and oil as required. I've taken about 1 medium-sized tomato which is ripe, a few curry leaves, about 2 to 3 cloves of garlic. I've crushed them roughly, and a few coriander leaves. Now let's look into the preparation. I've slightly warmed this water and I will be soaking the tamarind in this warm water, slightly warm enough so that you can immerse your hand in it. The warm water ensures the maximum extraction of the tamarind pulp in a very quick time. I thought I'll add a quick tip of how to store tamarind in your kitchen. I use a plastic container like this to store my tamarind. Always use a plastic container to store your tamarind. Do not by any chance store it in a glass container. The tamarind that I get is usually in a block like this. So I've broken the block so that it fits into the container. You can see that I've added about a handful of rock salt in the container. Just a handful. You can empty this rock salt once in 2 months and you can refill it with new salt. When I bought this tamarind, it was so hard that I couldn't even break it. So if you put salt like this in the container and store your tamarind, the rock salt has a tendency to loosen up your tamarind, so it becomes very easy for you to handle your tamarind. This is how I store my tamarind in my kitchen. I hope you guys enjoyed this little tip and make use of it if you find your tamarind is too hard. Now let's get back into the preparation of the rasam recipe. The tamarind has been soaking in water for about 20 minutes. You can see the color of the water has changed and all the tamarind has been extracted. The tamarind has become really soft. Keep extracting the pulp with your hand itself so that it gives a good aroma to the dish. While extracting, if you find any pieces of shells of the tamarind or any fiber or seeds, discard them, but retain all the pulp back into the rasam. Now the tamarind extract is ready. We'll add all the dry powders in it so that they don't form any lumps. We'll add about half a teaspoon of asafoetida powder or hing, half a teaspoon of turmeric powder, about 1 tablespoon of rasam powder. Add just 1 tablespoon for the start because the rasam powder has fenugreek seeds, so if you add too much it's going to leave behind a bitter taste. So add little and then if needed add more. Now we'll add the required salt. Mix them all with your hands so that all the powders dissolve well and they don't settle at the bottom and form any lumps. Now check for salt and the rasam powder. It's just right. Now we'll add the other ingredients into it. Now I'm pinching a few curry leaves and adding them into this. A few cloves of garlic, some coriander leaves. Reserve the other half for garnishing. Now we'll add the tomatoes. I'm just smashing the tomatoes in my hand so that your rasam is nice and juicy. Now mix them all well so that they all combine well, and then set them aside. Now let's look at the seasoning. I've placed this very small pan which I exclusively use for all seasoning purposes. I've added about 2 to 3 tablespoons of oil. We'll wait for the oil to get hot enough. Once the oil is hot, I'll be adding about 1 teaspoon of mustard seeds. We'll wait for the mustard seeds to splutter up and completely crackle. Once all the mustard has completely spluttered and crackled, I'm adding about 1 teaspoon of cumin seeds. Followed by the cumin seeds, I'm pinching about 2 dry red chillies and adding them in the oil. Adjust this according to the spice level you require because the rasam powder also has peppercorns in it. I'm switching off the stove, and now I'll be transferring the seasoning into the prepared rasam mixture. Adding a little bit of rasam back into the seasoning pan and taking away all the seasoning from the pan and adding it into the rasam mixture. Now we'll give that a quick stir. I've switched on the gas again and placed the rasam pot onto the gas flame. We'll give them a quiet mix and leave it aside for it to come to a boil. It's been around 3 to 5 minutes on medium-high flame. You can see that the rasam has slightly started frothing up. The frothing up is an indication that in another 1 or 1.5 minutes your rasam will start slowly boiling, and then it will get on to the rigorous boiling. I've given it a slight mix now and set that aside. Now you can see that the rasam is bubbling. You can see bubbles around the sides of your pot. Be next to it and put it on high flame. I'll stir it just once. You don't have to stir it often. You can just leave it as is. Now you see that the rasam has started, the intensity of the boiling is slowly increasing and it's all frothing up. I'm mixing so that it does not flow out of your pot because rasam has a tendency to do that. At this point, I will check for salt here and I'll taste the perfect rasam. The key or a tip to a perfect rasam is, as they say in Tamil, oru kodi vanda stava anachirno. That is, you should not let your rasam keep boiling too much. After you see this rigorous boiling, just 10 seconds and switch off your stove. I've switched off the stove. You can see that the cooking or the boiling of the rasam has slowly subsided. I'm adding the remaining coriander leaves and the curry leaves. Steaming hot rasam is ready to be served. You can serve it with plain rice with a simple poriyal of your choice. Enjoy this easy rasam with freshly ground homemade rasam powder. Post in your comments and suggestions and hit the like button if you enjoyed our rasam video today. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and log on to cookingflavors.com for detailed recipes and other useful tips. Till we see you again next time, thank you and have a nice day.